3 spine-chilling true stories of sinister encounters alone in the woods revealed at midnight. Amanda's heart raced as she tucked in her kids, the dim glow of their nightlights casting shadows in the corners of their room. Each night after, she slipped away into the nearby woods, seeking solace from the relentless pressure of her job. Tonight, the moon hung low, full and glowing ominously, casting an eerie light that beckoned her deeper, promising more than just an escape. She pulled her coat tight against the biting chill, each breath sending frosty clouds into the night. The forest was once her sanctuary, a place where laughter echoed and worries melted away, or at least it was. Now, it felt different. Gnarled trees towered over her like sentinels with twisted branches that seemed to reach out, fingers grasping. As she wandered, she stumbled upon strange symbols etched into the ancient oaks. They whispered sinister secrets that chilled her to the bone, a reminder that some things should remain undisturbed. A faint rustle set her heart hammering. Was it just the wind, or was something lurking in the shadows? Each step felt heavier as the sensation of being watched crept closer. She shook off the shaky feelings of dread, chalking it up to overactive imagination. Just as she turned to leave, he appeared. Henry. Dressed in dark clothes, his smile was too wide, too unsettling beneath the moonlight. His eyes burned with something primal as they locked onto hers, sending goosebumps crawling over her arms. How could someone seem so friendly yet feel so dangerous? She dismissed the fear, returning home, but the memory of his piercing gaze haunted her. The next night, eager to lighten the mood, Amanda brought her children. "Look, kids. The moon is beautiful," they chirped, racing ahead into the woods. Their laughter momentarily lulled her fears, the forest buzzing with life. Yet, as they explored, dread seeped back in when she spotted Henry again, this time with a friend. The atmosphere shifted, thickening with an unsettling tension. "Hey there, Amanda," Henry called, his voice smooth yet dripping with hidden menace. The other man stood silently beside him, a hulking presence that made Amanda's gut twist. Her instincts screamed to flee, but she forced a smile, heart racing as the men approached. "How nice to see you here," he continued, stepping closer, the unsettling smile never fading. She felt trapped, both men closing the distance between them, and her children obliviously giggling nearby. Their innocence shielded them, but she felt the primal protectiveness surge within her, screaming to get them out of there. The woods became an oppressive entity, a tangle of dark secrets waiting to ensnare them all. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. A shiver ran down her spine as Henry's grin widened, matching the monstrous shadows behind him. People had whispered about him, tails brushing against the edges of nightmares. She clenched her fists, eking out a calm facade for her kids. But lurking beneath that calm was a riot of panic. The woods stretched around them, whispering of things best left buried. What dark federation gathered in the depths of those trees? Why did it feel like a hunt was unfolding? Before she could decide, the shadows shifted again, and chilling words echoed furious murmurs in the pine-scented air, their intention a dark threat. She glanced down at her children, innocence gleaming in their eyes. But as the woods whispered louder, the truth loomed. This was only the beginning. Would she find the answers in time, or would the woods claim them all? A chill cut through the air as Amanda fought to maintain her composure. Henry's eyes blazed with a mix of something predatory, and she felt every instinct urging her to flee. Her children laughed, unaware of the danger creeping closer like shadows ready to swallow them whole. "Why don't we all take a walk together?" Henry suggested, his voice smooth as oil. The hulking man shifted by his side, nodding slowly, his expression unreadable. Amanda could barely nod in return, her heart pounding so violently against her ribcage that she worried it might burst through. "No, thanks," she replied, forcing a laugh that felt hollow even to her own ears. "We're just exploring." The trees seemed to lean in closer, almost eavesdropping on her lie. The air grew thick, stifling her words, preventing escape. "Exploring is fun," Henry's smile remained, but it was less inviting now. "You never know what you might find out there." He pointed deeper into the dense underbrush, where the shadows pooled and writhed. The children, oblivious to the tension, darted off in the opposite direction, giggling as they stumbled over roots and rocks. Panic gripped Amanda as she called for them, "Stay close." But in an instant, the woods transformed from welcoming to hostile. An overwhelming urge to protect her kids surged through her veins like fire. The hulking man took a step towards her. "You worry too much, Amanda." The words hung in the air, thick and dangerous. "We're just friends." The darkness behind him seemed to pulse, vibrating with an ominous presence. She felt the ground shift beneath her. It wasn't just fear that rattled her now. Something ancient stirred in the woods, something that had been laying in wait. The air grew heavier, every breath a struggle. "Mom! Look at this!" Her son shouted, as he and her daughter emerged from behind a gnarled tree, clutching what appeared to be a worn, leather-bound book. Was it part of their game? Fear gripped her, a clutching panic tightening around her throat as they opened it. Faded drawings sprawled across the pages, symbols, rituals, things she couldn't fully comprehend. "Put that down," she called, dread creeping into her voice as she rushed forward. Her heart sank as she caught a glimpse at the ghastly symbols matching those etched into the trees. A burning sensation crawled up her spine. Henry chuckled softly. "They've found something special. Isn't that right?" He moved closer, eyes locked onto the book. His gaze was sharp, a predator stalking its prey. Every instinct screamed for escape. She yanked the book from her kid's hands, her nails digging into the aged leather as dread washed over her. "Let us go now," she said, urgency bubbling in her throat. Suddenly, the forest erupted into chaos. Shadows darted about as whispers grew louder, echoing voices from the depths of darkness. She heard her children gasp, a sound of sheer terror that sliced through her. "What is happening?" her son cried, confusion mixed with fear. Amanda didn't answer. Instead, she grabbed their hands tightly, pulling them away from the looming threat as the trees seemed to shudder around them. The path back felt distant, another world entirely, swallowed by the sinister energy alive with murmurs, but in that moment, as they stumbled through the darkness, a sharp wind swept through the woods, sending chills racing through her body. The whispers quickened, words unraveling like threads. "Join us." The haunting echo filled the air, a dark invitation. Sweat trickled down her back as she glanced over her shoulder, pulse pounding. Henry stood motionless, the hulking man beside him, shadows bleeding into their forms. Were they getting taller? Was this really happening? With panic driving her forward, Amanda pushed through the brush, heart racing, her kids struggling to keep up as the world around them twisted into an abyss of fear. Would they escape? Or had the woods already drawn them into its insidious embrace? As they burst into a clearing, the full moon loomed overhead, illuminating a scene that made her gut twist with dread. Figures huddled together, there. Faces obscured by dark hoods, chanting in low, guttural tones. "Mom! What is going on?" The hairs on her arms stood tall as she realized this was their destination, the heart of the forest. In that moment, she knew whatever ancient pact was hidden here, she couldn't let her children fall under its spell. But as she turned, the shadows converged, closing in around them. The moonlight flickered as if the night itself conspired against her. Could they find their way back, or were they now part of something far more sinister? The darkness waited, breathing, watching, hungry. With urgency and fear intertwined, she clutched her kids closer and prepared to fight against the unknown that beckoned from the trees. The chanting grew louder, a haunting melody that reverberated through Amanda's bones. She could feel the weight of those hoods upon her, their unseen eyes boring into her skin. Panic surged as she backed away slowly, pulling her children with her. Their confused faces were pale, reflecting her own terror. "Please, please, stay close," she urged, her voice trembling. The children clutched her sides, their small bodies pressing against her as they faced the dark figures that loomed at the edge of the clearing. The wind picked up again, shoving against them, sending tendrils of cold through the air. Amanda's breath came in quick gasps. She glanced back at the ominous figures, deeply entrenched in their chanting, their movements slow and deliberate, each gesture weaving a spell she could not comprehend. "Mom, what are they doing?" her daughter whispered, eyes wide with fear. "I don't know, honey. We need to get out of here." Amanda's heart raced. She thought about the path back, the looming darkness pressing ever closer. Suddenly, the chanting stopped. The silence felt like pressure bearing down, heavy and suffocating. Amanda's heart skipped a beat, dread pooling in her stomach. Then, just like that, one of the hooded figures stepped forward. The figure's cloak swirled like a frayed raven's wing, revealing a glimpse of a pale hand that clutched something that glimmered under the moonlight. "Leave us," it said, voice cold, echoing across the clearing like gravel scraping against stone. "Run!" Amanda screamed. She propelled herself forward, yanking her children with her. The clearing opened before them like a monstrous mouth ready to swallow them whole. They scrambled toward the edge of the clearing, racing back into the shadows. The air was thick and suffocating as she glanced over her shoulder, expecting to see the figures reshape themselves into monstrous forms. But they remained where they stood, unmoving and silent, their sinister chants hanging in the air like a curse. "Stop!" one of the children gasped, pulling at her sleeve. "What if they follow us? Then we'll run faster," Amanda snapped back, lungs burning. In that moment, she saw the path ahead, a narrow way, jagged with roots and overgrown with brambles. Every instinct told her to go forward, so she pressed on, despite the fear clawing at her throat. They dashed into the maze of trees, adrenaline numbing her senses. The woods felt alive, vibrating with unseen eyes watching, murmuring secrets as they dashed through. Each step echoed louder than before, as if the forest itself was warning them, urging them to turn back. But she wouldn't stop, she couldn't. Twisting and turning, they came upon a river, its water reflecting the moonlight like a finger traced across glass. It was a barrier. Was it a salvation? Or a trap? "Mom, wait!" her son cried, but the weight of desperation pushed her forward. With one swift motion, she plunged into the water, dragging them along, the cold piercing through their clothes. A part of her prayed the river would wash away the darkness chasing them. As they emerged on the other bank, she felt the pull of the forest again, a readjusting balance that made the hairs on her neck prick. For just a moment, there was silence. The chanting, the shadows, they receded slightly, but Amanda knew that this was a temporary reprieve, not an escape. "Keep moving," she urged, adrenaline shifting like a flood in her veins as they sprinted through the underbrush. The burn of fear chased after them, gnawing at her heels, but then, a soft insistent whisper cut through the night. "Join us," it slithered into her ears, wrapping around her mind like curling smoke. The ground felt unstable beneath her feet. Was she losing her grip on reality? She stumbled, catching herself just in time. But the darkness was relentless. She felt her children's hands shaking in hers. "Mom, are they coming?" They were out of breath, voices cracking. "I don't know." Suddenly, a vision flashed in her mind. The book. The symbols. The forest wasn't just a backdrop, it was a living entity. "Mom!" her daughter cried, fear gripping her words. "Look!" Amanda turned, breath hitching in her throat. The shadows from the riverbank slithered closer, coiling around the trees, hungry and waiting. "Run!" The three of them fled again, desperate and frantic, lungs burning, hearts pounding. But deep within her, something flickered, a fleeting doubt, a thought buried in dread. What if the way out led them closer to the truth? As they plunged deeper into the night, Amanda realized, they were not alone anymore. What had the woods awakened? And would they ever truly escape? The air seemed to vibrate with an answer, echoing softly, darkly. Join us. The forest breathed deeper, shadows wrapping tighter around her family as they ran into the enveloping dark, racing against the predatory hunger closing in on them. Would the moonlight guide them home, or was it merely a lure into something far worse? And at that moment the darkness awaited, patient and unyielding, hungry for the promise of souls. The shadows breathed around them as Amanda and her children pushed through the thick underbrush. The forest seemed to close in, as if it wanted to swallow them whole. Every snap of a twig beneath their feet sounded like a signal, an alarm for whatever hunted in the dark. Behind them, the whisper curled through the air again, melding with the rustling leaves. Join us. It was sultry and sweet, promising secrets if only they would turn back. Amanda clenched her jaw, fighting the pull. She had to keep going. Mom, I can't run anymore. The only son's voice was hoarse. He stumbled, almost losing his balance on the uneven terrain. Heart racing, Amanda bent down, clutching his shoulders with her cold hands. We'll rest, just for a moment, she gasped, scanning the surroundings. The trees loomed like ancient sentinels, their bark twisted and gnarled. It was as if they were watching, judging. Just breathe. They huddled together, their breaths mingling in the cool night air. The canopy formed a ceiling that shut out the stars. She whispered reassurances, but deep inside, fear churned wildly. Then, a low rustling caught her attention. From the corner of her eye, Amanda saw a shadow move, a blur shifting between the trunks. Her heart thundered. They weren't alone, not just in the woods. The hunt had started. Get up! She snapped, adrenaline hitting her like a jolt. Now! The kids obeyed, scrambling to their feet. They took off again, running blindly while the forest swallowed them deeper. Left. Right. Twisting into a labyrinth with no clear exit. Every step felt like wading through thick, heavy air. Soon, the path narrowed. Barbed vines snatched at them, lashing against their skin. The children cried out, but she urged them onward, teeth gritted. There had to be an end to this mist. Mom! Look! Her daughter wailed, pointing ahead. There it was, a clearing bathed in moonlight, shimmering in an otherworldly glow. But it felt wrong. Even beautiful, it twisted her stomach. Something lurked there, waiting. Against her better judgment, Amanda led her children forward. The ground beneath their feet felt different, softer, like moss thickening with malevolence. What if it's a trap? Her daughter's voice wobbled. Amanda didn't answer. They stepped into the clearing, and a sense of dread washed over her like a cold wave. It felt as if the darkness had exhaled, creating a heavy stillness. In the center, an altar stood, a crude stone slab etched with the very symbols she had seen in that cursed book. Moonlight danced on its surface, revealing something glimmering, a metallic object, perhaps an offering, beckoning. And then they heard it again, insistent, fervent. Join us! It rolled over them like fog, seductive and chilling. Fear wrapped around Amanda's heart like a noose. We need to go. But the children stood frozen, eyes wide and entranced by what lay before them. Mom, it's beautiful, her son muttered, stepping closer. No. She yanked him back, panic flaring. If they got too close, she knew it would drag them in. Suddenly, the air thickened, constricting like a tightening grip. Shadows twisted around the stone as if alive, thick tendrils weaving through the dark. A figure emerged, stepping into the moonlight. A hooded visage, the features obscured, but the shape was unmistakable, a collector, a harbinger. Leave your offerings, the figure intoned, voice smooth like silk, oozing with hungering allure. A bolt of ice shot through Amanda. "Run!" she yelled again, and this time, she didn't hesitate. She rocketed back into the trees, taking her children by the hands, not looking back. But the shadows followed, relentless. The whispering had turned into a roar, echoing, encompassing them as they dashed back into the labyrinth. Agony surged through her limbs as they ran. Had it just been that easy? What had awakened within the woods might be far worse than anything she could have imagined. Suddenly, a tree sprang from behind, its twisted roots reaching out like fingers. Amanda and her daughter barely avoided it. It felt as if the forest itself was trying to ensnare them, protecting its secrets. "Mom! I hear it." The whisper. Her daughter shrieked, struggling to keep pace. "Don't listen. Block it out." But the trees seemed to conspire against them, echoing the forbidden invitation that licked at the edges of her sanity. How far could they run before the darkness engulfed them? As they stumbled, the sharp cry of an animal pierced the air, drowned out by the whispers that beckoned for them to join, unite with shadows that never ceased. And Amanda realized this wasn't just a chase. It was a culmination, a terrible awakening. "Join us," it drummed in her ears, relentless an inevitability that sought to claim them. Where could they find refuge, if the woods themselves were listening, longing? She could feel the truth crawling under her skin, and she was terrified to discover what awaited them when the whispers finally fell silent. What kind of sacrifice did the forest desire, and how would they survive the night against its insatiable hunger? The forest twisted and turned around them, an endless maze with shadows that lurked just out of sight. Each pulse of the whispered invitation seemed to tug at Amanda's mind, drawing her back toward the altar, the shimmering object that promised salvation or damnation. She tightened her grip on her children, as if her strength alone could anchor them against the siren call of the woods. "Keep moving," she urged, hardly recognizing her own voice over the quickening sound of her heartbeat. The moon hung high, a silent witness watching the terror unfold as they stumbled deeper into the thicket. Branches clawed at their clothes. The scent of damp earth and decay filled her lungs. She could feel the children's fear radiating off them, an electric charge that heightened her own internal panic. "Mom," her son's breath was quick, shaky. "What if we can't get out?" She rocked back and forth slightly, her heart heavy in her chest. There has to be a way. But deep down, she was unsure. Each step further into the dark felt like a spiral into madness. Then, the whispers intensified. Join us," the air thickened, and it swirled around them like a living thing. It wasn't merely in her head, it was everywhere, wrapping around them, squeezing against her eardrums, heavy and rhythmic like a drum calling them closer to some dark pact. "Shut up. Just shut up," she screamed into the darkness, fingers fumbling as she wiped away the sweat that stung her eyes. She couldn't let it in, couldn't let them drown in it. Ignoring them was a gamble, but who was she to risk her children's lives over a whisper? "Mom," her daughter said softly, voice laced with something more profound than fear. Amanda turned to find her eyes glazed over, staring into the distances of the trees. "Please, don't listen. Stay close." She tugged both of their hands, willing them to focus. They darted into a patch of trees that loomed, larger and darker, as if they were veering into an unwelcoming realm. Then another sound pierced through the snap of a branch too close, almost like a footfall. Panic shot through her. They weren't just being hunted, something had tracked them. "Run!" Their footsteps pounded against the earth, breath quickening, growing ragged. Amanda glanced back, eyes wide with dread. Shadows flickered in the corners of her vision, figures moving, stalking. The forest seemed to pulse with life, watching, waiting for them to falter. "Mom, we can't," her son gasped, fighting against exhaustion. Ahead, the ground opened up into yet another clearing. This one, however, bubbled with an unsettling light, casting an eerie glow across the frightened faces of the trees. What if there's nowhere left to run? "Trust me." "We'll find a way," she cried, though her resolve was wavering. They burst into the clearing, and it lit up like a stage. The wood was scarred with etched runes, glowing faintly as if the forest's own heart pulsed through it. It felt alive, electric. "No!" She pulled the children back before they could stumble onto the runes. But it was already too late. The whispers became a roar, enveloping them, a cacophony of voices urging them to surrender. "Join us. You are meant to be part of this, Mom." Her daughter cried out, collapsing to her knees, hands pressed against her ears. "I can't take it." Amanda felt trapped. The seductive whisper was strong enough to penetrate her defenses. She took a staggering step back, pulse racing. The trees loomed ominously toward the encroaching darkness. And there, among the shadows, shapes began to form, figures, like the collector, emerging slowly from the brush. Desperate eyes and searching hands reached out toward them. A moment of terror gripped Amanda as she understood what she had seen at the altar was no offering. It was a bait, a trap that had been waiting, hungry for a sacrifice. "Run! Follow me! Now!" she commanded, kicking into high gear, but the trees whispered louder, their voices mingling with a laughter that splintered in her mind, coursing through the air like a poison. In the battle of wills, she could feel her strength waning, her grip faltering. Ahead, beneath a gnarled oak, a hidden path appeared, flickering like a wisp against the chaos. Could it be hope? A glimmer of escape amidst the cursed shadows? But would it really lead them to safety, or into a deeper nightmare? With a final glance backward, her heart heavy with dread, Amanda urged her children toward the darkened mouth of the path. What awaited them? Only the forest knew, yet the trees stood silent, as an ancient hunger awaited the choice they had to make. Would they succumb, or fight against the encroaching evil that hungered for their very souls? The hidden path swallowed them whole, and Amanda's breath came in short gasps, her heart racing against the weight of dread that clung thick in the air. The shadows closed tight behind them, an ominous curtain that masked the horrors lurking just out of sight. For a moment, they staggered forward, the faint glow of moonlight filtering through the twisted branches overhead. "Mom," her son whimpered, his voice trembling with terror. "What if it's worse here?" She glanced back, feeling the weight of the darkness pressing in. "We can't think like that. We need to keep moving." The words tasted like ash in her mouth, but she shoved the fear aside. If they stopped, if they faltered, everything could unravel. The path twisted and turned, narrowing to single file. Amanda felt the weight of something behind them, a presence, alive and hungry, stalking closer. "Faster!" she urged, adrenaline driving her, even as her legs cried out from exertion, and then it happened. As they turned a sharp bend, the trees began to adjust. The trunks twisted upward, their branches curling like clawed fingers. The whispers began again, soft at first but gathering momentum, a haunting melody that promised knowledge, connection, and doom. Join us," her daughter squeezed her hand, nails digging into skin. "Mom, I can't stand it. I can hear them. Focus on me. Just focus." Amanda yelled, willing her children to block out the siren song entangling their minds. Each step felt heavy, as if the earth itself were trying to pull them down, each footfall a reminder of their precarious existence in this nightmarish place. And as they pressed on, the whispers morphed into laughter, shrill and mocking. "Here in the sacred wood, the lost are never free." The words slithered around them, prickling her skin. They stumbled out of the narrowly woven path into another clearing, this one broader, but suffocated by oppressive darkness and silence. There was no glow here, no comforting light to guide them. Just shadow and a suffocating stillness that made Amanda's skin crawl. "What is this place?" her son murmured. And in that moment of silence, the laughter abruptly ceased as if it had been swallowed whole. Tension hung thickly between them like a fragile thread, ready to snap. Then, the ground beneath their feet began to tremble, slowly at first, then building into a violent quake that shook leaves from the boughs overhead. The trees, once steadfast guardians, now seemed to bend and sway as if caught in a malevolent dance. "Run!" Amanda screamed again, charging into the shadows, praying that the children followed. Behind them, roots twisted and formed into arms, clawing at their legs, trying to drag them back to the depths of darkness. A sudden burst of rage overtook Amanda, unleashing the primal strength she didn't know she had. She ripped free from the grasping roots and forged ahead, determination blazing in her chest. "Don't look back. Just keep running." But the further they went, the thicker the forest grew. Trees loomed like ancient sentinels, their faces carved from bark betraying distorted expressions. And from the dark Kulin trees emerged figures swathed in shadows, eyes that glinted like daggers, watching. "Join us," their voices echoed again, seductive and taunting. At the edge of another clearing, Amanda skidded to a halt. Flickering in the distance was a large stone, an altar glowing faintly like the one from her haunted memory. Fear held her in place. "Not again," she whispered, her breath catching as tingles of recognition coursed through her. Her children huddled close, breathless, wide-eyed. "What do we do?" The altar beckoned, its surface shimmering with dark promise. And before her mind could catch up, a low growl rumbled from the darkness, loud and chilling, a warning that made her blood run cold. "Don't go near it!" Amanda shouted, panic surging anew. But the shadows began to shift between the trees, tightening around them, and all she could do was hold her children tightly, waiting for the final horror to unfold. Was the forest truly alive? Or had they awakened something more insidious? With dread heavy in her heart, Amanda faced the altar, an inevitable reckoning drawing near as the figures emerged from the dark. What lay ahead? Could they break free, or were they destined to join the chorus of lost souls entwined in the roots of the forest? The darkness thickened, wrapping around Amanda like a suffocating shroud. The altar glimmered, its surface shimmering with unnatural light, pulling her gaze against her will. She could feel the pull in her bones, the ache to understand what lay before her, but instinct screamed to flee. "Mom, I don't want to die." Her son's voice broke through her panic. It was laced with raw fear, each syllable trembling as if trying to claw back into safety. She tightened her grip around their hands, feeling the cold sweat cling to her palms. "What if we just back away?" her daughter whispered, trembling. "Maybe they'll let us go?" A rustle erupted behind them, snapping Amanda from her trance. "No!" she yelled, spinning around, heart racing. The shadows morphed and danced, coalescing into grotesque figures that lunged closer, tendrils of darkness exploring the edge of their space like probing fingers. "Join us," came the chorus again, a symphony of wet whispers and deceptive comfort. She could feel their hunger. It was an entity, alive and breathing. Instinct surged like a current in her veins. "Let go!" she cried, yanking both children away from the encroaching shadows just as another figure lunged forward, its silhouette a black hole against the starlit sky. They stumbled back, but the ground beneath them heaved as if the earth itself were intent on delivering them back into the depths. Amanda felt the altar's magnetic force hammering in her mind, digging up buried memories, old fears. Hadn't she seen this place before? The stone, the whispers run. "Now!" she shouted, tearing herself away from the altar's grip and dragging her children behind her. They squeezed through the trees, their branches scratching at their skin, as if the forest were claiming them for its own. The figures behind them shrieked, their wails echoing through the clearing, chilling Amanda to her core. Each sound clawed at her soul, threatening to tear apart her sanity. She stumbled forward, feeling her children's rapid breath against her back, different points of terror pulsing in the air. Something was getting too close. Suddenly, the ground shifted. The path was breaking apart, roots twisting upward like angry serpents trying to ensnare them. Panic surged high within Amanda as she steadied her footing. "I can't, Mom. Help!" her daughter cried, slipping onto her knees. Without thinking, Amanda reached for her, but the shadows mounted, a thick fog wrapping around her hands and pulling at her tightly. "Join us!" The words turned into a chant, drowning her resolve, promising things she dared not want. "Hold on!" she shouted desperately, yanking her daughter free just as one of the darker figures advanced, a hand stretched, claws glinting. They dove forward, dragging each other through the labyrinth of trees. The laughter was back, echoing through the leaves, mocking them. It felt like a living entity, thrumming with power, urging them to give in. "Mom, I can't run anymore," her son gasped. And just then, a flash of hope, a distant shimmer between thick tree trunks. A way out? But what loomed ahead? As they stumbled closer, Amanda's heart raced with a mix of terror and determination. They were near another clearing, but this felt different. The air stirred, heavy with anticipation and something like despair. "Stay close," she warned, glancing back at the writhing figures. But the shadows were there, narrowing their distance. And as they broke into the clearing, Amanda's breath caught. A towering monolith loomed before them, as sinister and inviting as the altar. The whispers intensified, promising sanctuary but demanding a price. "Join us." What would they have to sacrifice to escape? Before Amanda could summon an answer, a hand reached out from the darkness, beckoning her forward. She hesitated, feeling the weight of decision press heavy. Whatever it was, it loomed larger than her fear. What would she choose? Would they join the figures in the dark, or fight until the last breath? The air shimmered, and she knew they were running out of time in that fraught moment. The ground beneath them trembled again, but this time it was different, a solid promise of something dreadful yet unknown. "Mom!" her children cried, their eyes wide with terror. And at that moment, Amanda realized the true horror. It was not just about escape. It was about the truth of the forest and what awaited them if they dared to push forward. What would emerge from the shadows and pull them into the void? Would Amanda be strong enough to protect them one last time? The hand lingered in the gloom, beckoning as if it had a life of its own. Amanda's heartbeat thundered in her ears, drowning out all other sounds: her children's cries, the sinister whispers, even the chilling laughter that echoed from the shadows. "No!" she shouted, pulling her kids closer. They needed to run, to get away, but that figure, it was so tempting, like a light in the suffocating dark. "Mom, don't!" her daughter screamed, her voice breaking through the haze. The clearness of her plea snapped Amanda back into focus. These shadows promised nothing but despair. "Let us go!" she shouted, dragging her children away from the monolith. They couldn't linger, couldn't think. Instinctively, they fled deeper into the forest, branches tearing at their clothes and nibbling at their skin. The maze of trees closed in around them, shoving them like angry fists, trying to keep them penned and pleading, but the ground continued to shift. With each step, it felt alive, reshaping beneath them as if it truly wanted them to surrender. They slid down an incline, mud splattering, pulling them further down into a pit where light barely reached. "Mom! I can't see!" her son whimpered. "Just hold on to my hand," Amanda urged, her voice strained as dread pooled in her stomach. The darkness felt thicker down here, almost sentient. Echoes of their panicked breaths surrounded them, amplifying their despair. Then she heard it again, the whispers, more urgent now. "Join us, we are waiting." It clawed at her resolve, beckoning her to give in. "Run!" She pushed her children ahead of her, praying they could find safety somewhere beyond the veil of shadows. The path twisted as they stumbled into another clearing, a different kind of dread enveloping it. A fog rolled in, curling around their feet like fingers seeking warmth. The figures in the darkness were bolder now, emerging amongst the trees, more defined, their faces twisted in glee. "Mom, look!" her daughter shouted, pointing to the far side of the clearing. There was an old cabin, dilapidated and dark, a remnant from another time. Shadows flitted across the windows like ghosts trapped within. It could be a trap. Amanda gasped, but her children's faces showed a flicker of hope, a longing for refuge. "Mom, please! We need to go," her son pleaded, tears streaming down his cheeks, the sound of their sobs mixed with the sinister whispers. It was a chaotic symphony of anguish and desperation. The figures slithered closer, their forms shifting like smoke, reaching out with slick, blackened hands that threatened to swallow them whole. Please join us. Their tone was a sickly sweet melody, full of promises that only the damned could understand. Amanda's heart sank. There was nowhere left to run. The shadows were closing in, closing off any chance of escape. Time to decide. Here, beneath the screeching trees, they were trapped but not yet claimed. The cabin, the warmth of shelter, or the chilling grip of doom? She took a shaky breath, weighing the options as the darkness pulsed around them, each figure hungry for their surrender. Mom! The urgency in her children's voices pulled Amanda from her contemplation. With no other choice, clenching her jaw and her children's hands, she surged toward the cabin. Stick together. Trust me. She yelled, a desperate mantra to drown out the chaos, and as they burst through the door, the air shifted abruptly to something colder, more visceral. The whispers stopped, silencing into a dreadful expectation. Inside, shadows writhed along the walls like lost souls ensnared in time. Before she could think, a loud crash sounded from behind them. The figures had followed, gaining speed. Get inside, now! Amanda commanded. As they stumbled in, a heavy door slammed shut behind them with a finality that made her blood run cold. What now, Mom? Her son asked, eyes wide with terror. The cabin was dark, but flickering embers glowed in an old fireplace, casting eerie shadows that reveled in their confusion. Mom, what if they get in? Her daughter whimpered, clutching her brother tightly. Desperation clawed at Amanda's throat. We'll find a way out, she promised, though the words felt hollow, but as she scanned the room, dread loomed larger than the shadows outside. What lay hidden in the corners? Secrets waiting to be uncovered, darkness within darkness. The whispers returned, now inside the cabin. Join us. They seeped through the gaps of the walls, wrapping around Amanda like a vice, suffocating and insatiable. What awaited them in the dark corners of this haven turned hell? Would they be able to resist the pull of the shadows, or were they destined to join them forever? Time was not on their side. The flickering firelight cast grotesque shadows that danced around the cabin. Panic erupted in Amanda's chest as she realized the whispers grew stronger, echoing off the walls. Join us, they taunted, mocking her desperation. Her children pressed close, their wide eyes reflecting the fear that had claimed them. Stay here. Amanda commanded, trying to sound braver than she felt. She edged toward the window, heart hammering. Squinting through the grimy glass, she saw the figures outside more defined now. They moved with a fluid grace, their limbs bending in unnatural ways, skin stretched tight over skeletal frames. Their eyes glowed, pinpricks of hunger in the dark. Mom, her son whispered, the quiver in his voice tightening her throat. Don't look. She rushed back to them, pulling her children deeper into the room. We have to find something, anything to help us. The cabin was a relic of another year, its walls steeped in decay. Old furniture lay haphazard, casting bleak shapes against the walls. Shadows lurked in the corners, as if waiting for the right moment to strike. A rickety table caught Amanda's eye, the wood warped and splintering, a potential weapon. Help me. She whispered fiercely to her kids, pointing at the table. They moved together, hands trembling as they pushed it aside, revealing a trapdoor beneath. Mom, do we have to? Her daughter whimpered. What if it leads to more darkness? Or a way out? Amanda countered, eyes darting back to the window. One figure was closer now, a slit of a grin splitting its face, an invitation steeped in dread. We have to try. With bravery fueled by desperation, Amanda pried open the door. A gust of musty air wafted up, carrying the sense of mold and forgotten things. The stairs descended into blackness, curling into shadows that swirled like smoke. Please, please. Her son pleaded again, clutching his sister tightly. Trust me. Amanda urged, her throat tight. They needed to move, and time was a merciless foe. Taking a deep breath, she led them down. The wood creaked ominously beneath their feet as they descended into the underground darkness. Each step felt like a surrender. The walls glistened, damp and alive, pulsing with something unseen. Then came the laughter, a horrible, mocking cackle that reverberated in the confined space. The door above slammed shut, plunging them into suffocating silence. "Mom!" her daughter cried, thrashing against the dark. "It's okay," Amanda said, trying to sound calm. "We have to keep moving." They stumbled through the black, the lack of light blanketing them like thick cobwebs. Suddenly, Amanda felt something brush her arm. She recoiled, heart racing. "Stay close," she hissed, adrenaline surging. A low moan echoed around them, sounding like the very walls were alive. "Join us," the voice sighed, echoing with a chilling familiarity. It was almost comforting, tempting her to give in. "Mom, they're coming," her son squeaked, his voice barely audible. The darkness thickened, coiling around them. "We can't let them take us," Amanda whispered fiercely. "Keep moving." She pushed forward, their breaths quickening, a frantic rhythm against the sinister symphony of the cabin. Soon, they stumbled into a small clearing, flickering with dull light. Ancient stones jutted from the earth like jagged teeth, a circle surrounding an altar made of bones. The realization struck Amanda like a physical blow. This was not just a way out, it was a sacrificial haven. The whispers grew louder, voices intertwining in a twisted chorus. "Join us, free will is an illusion," panic gripped Amanda. They had to escape. But time slipped through her fingers, the ground trembled, shifting. The altar pulsed with energy, radiating shadows that threatened to swallow them whole. "Mom, we can't stay here," her daughter yelled, fear lacing her voice. "I know," Amanda shouted, darting back to the stairway, but as they turned, the darkness surged, blocking their escape. The figures of the forest loomed large, stretching limbs toward the children, smiles wide with malevolent delight. "Join us," they sang, a horrid symphony that harmonized with Amanda's racing heart. She clutched her children tight, feeling the pull of the shadows. This was the moment, fight or surrender. As the darkness surged forward, Amanda's mind raced. What could she do? What choice would save them? "Run!" she yelled, but ahead the shadows loomed, ready to snatch them away. Just as hope flickered, caught between light and shadow, Amanda felt time falter. Would they escape the grip of darkness, or would it be the end for them all? The air crackled with dread as she made her final decision. A flash. A scream. And then the walls shuddered, sealing their fate. What awaited them in this fight against the abyss? Could they outlast the growing darkness, or would they succumb? The echoes answered with a resounding silence. The silence wrapped around Amanda and her children like a blanket, thick and oppressive. But it wasn't a comforting silence. It held the air of dread, a stillness that heralded the storm. Shadows writhed at the edges of the dim light, each flicker teasing out figures that loomed, beckoning with insidious whispers. "Join us, Mom, please," her son murmured, urgency threading through his voice, eyes wide with terror. Amanda's heart sank. They needed to unify. "Stay with me, both of you," she commanded, resolute, but inside, fear gnawed at her. The altar, no, the stone circle, it was a summoning place where the dark whispered invitations to perdition. As if answering her unspoken dread, the figures outside stirred, pressing against the walls of the underground chamber, shadows undulating, grasping at the air. With each beat of Amanda's heart, they drew closer, clamoring for her surrender. Panic surged anew. "We can't let them take us," she hissed, her eyes darting around, looking for a way out, something, anything to give them hope. "Mom, what if there's no escape?" her daughter whimpered, trembling. The weight of despair hung thick in the cramped space, wrapping around Amanda's throat like a noose. "No. We will fight." Amanda replied fiercely, clenching her fists. The primal desire to protect surged through her. Her children were everything, and she would claw her way through hell to keep them safe. With a sudden resolve, she turned to the altar, feeling its pull amidst the fray. If this is where it ends, it won TB with open arms. Not with my children beside me. Amanda took a deep breath, gathering every ounce of courage she possessed, then she felt it, an energy pulsing from the altar. Draw upon it. It was dark but not just malevolent, it was nodding truths that could set them free. Children, listen to me. Whatever strange magic lies here, we must not join it or give in. The choral whispers crescendoed, nearly drowning her. Join us, the words writhed around like snakes, slick and oily, threatening to slither into her mind, choking out all resistance. No! Amanda screamed, her voice cracking. She sprang forward, leading her children with her, straight to the altar. We claim our freedom. She pulled her children close, clutching them as her heart swelled. The shadows seized around them, a raucous cacophony spiraled into chaos, but Amanda didn't veer. She had to concentrate. If this place was alive, they would have to be stronger. With all her might, she shouted, we refuse to surrender. We are not meant to be lost. In a flash, unseen lines stretched before her, pulsating with energy as they wove through the air. The moment felt electric, humming with raw potential. The altar reacted. The whispers fell silent, then erupted into anguished howls. Join us, they shrieked, a blend of fury and desperation. Around her, the shadows thrashed violently, the ground shook again, but Amanda held fast. Not today. She bellowed, her fierce declaration rising above the noise. In that moment, glancing up, she saw the shimmering glint of moonlight piercing through the cracks of the underground. Hope blossomed like a flower breaking through the snow, fragile but tenacious. We're getting out. She shouted, racing toward the sources of light, dragging her children behind her as if they could outpace the darkness itself. The shadowed figures lashed out, driven mad with rage at their defiance. But Amanda's spirit charged ahead like a roaring flame. They darted upwards, scrambling for the source of light, pushing past the roots and rocks that clawed at them. Finally bursting free through an exit, the trio stumbled back into the familiar embrace of the forest, the moon glaring down like a guardian angel. The whispers fell away, choked by the enchanted air that felt lighter. But Amanda knew the threat would linger, the shadows still hawking beneath the canopy of trees, waiting to ensnare. Stay close. She urged again, leading her children forward, panting in unison, hearts racing. Can they follow us? Her daughter asked, fear tugging at her eyes. Maybe, Amanda replied. Cautiously. It's never truly gone. The worry curled tightly in her chest. We just need to keep moving forward. As they walked through the now familiar paths, light cascaded through the branches, revealing remnants of their earlier journey, the symbols upon the trees, shadows flickering shyly away. Memories of dread still clung to every bark, but Amanda held her children to her sides, a fierce protector in a world that felt less treacherous but still not entirely safe. Eventually, they reached the outer edge of the woods, familiar everyday life waiting beyond. Her heart thudded. Finally, safety was in sight. The whispers faded to distant echoes, a reminder of what they had faced. The looming trees stood watchful behind them, but their menacing spell seemed to loosen with every step toward the light. As they crossed into the open field, Amanda turned back, facing the woods one last time. You won't have my family, she vowed, her heart steady, and with that final promise lingering in the air, they walked home beneath the glow of the forgiving moon, moving towards light, together in undying courage. The whispering shadows remained, a haunting echo of things unsaid, but they had chosen their path, to live brightly, always moving onwards, against the dark. And as for the forest, it would remain there, waiting and watching, a world of unspeakable secrets wrapped in shadows and light. So remember, if you find yourself alone in the woods one day, hold tight to your courage, because the darkness can be lured, yet respect the true power of light, for its presence can always outshine the most sinister of whispers. Now, If you don't want to miss out on more heart-pounding tales, you need to subscribe now. Smash that like button to help the algorithm. And don't forget to flood the comments with your reactions and theories about this wild conclusion. Share with at least 5 friends who need to see this gripping finale. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second.